So the first thing that we're going to need to do is we're going to need to fix our settings here for our tiles. So if we go ahead and if we play the game, for example, and if we zoom in here, you can see that the tiles are sticking out over the grid. So if we go to our tile map and open this up and place a tile, for example, you can see here that the outsides of the tile go beyond the grid. So we definitely need to fix that, or it's going to cause us issues here further on down the road. And there's an easy thing that we can do to fix this. It's not going to be too bad. All we have to do is go over here back into our tiles. And for the tiles that we used, we can just adjust the pixels per unit here. So what we did is we used this pack here from Kenny, the voxel pack, and the tile size here is 128 by 128. So all we have to do is take our pixels per unit and we can adjust this to 128. So for example, I'm going to open this up just to kind of show you. You can see here that, you know, they're over the border again. But if we go into the dirt one, for example, and we change this to 128, and if you just click off of it, it'll make you save it. And you'll see here that it makes the tile smaller. So now this tile is fitting inside of the grid perfectly here. And so we'll just need to do that same thing for the other tiles as well. And once we have that completed, you'll see that the tile palette here adjusts accordingly, and now all of them will fit inside of the squares. And if we go ahead and play our game now, we should see this change. So you can see now that all of these look like they are actually inside the grid appropriately. The next thing that we're going to want to do is we're going to want to start getting our tile map here set up for when we add in our player. So one thing that we're going to need is we're going to need to add in a collider, so we can come down here into our components and we can add in a Tilemap Collider 2D. And now if we click on play, you'll see that this actually goes around the entire tile map. You can see here the orange outline. So this is going to work for us. And then this is also going to, it'll change automatically for us. And I'll show you this here in just a second. But if we were to start breaking tiles, for example, this is going to adjust the orange line here, the outline of it for us automatically. And we'll show you that here in just one moment. And then also thinking about this, we're probably going to end up having at least one more tile map. And just to make this not confusing or anything like that, I think that we're going to rename the world tile map. So I'm going to go ahead and actually change this from world and have this say ground, because this is going to be all of our ground items here. And then one other thing that we'll need to do is inside our world generator script, we're going to want to actually change this as well. So up here we simply have this called tile map. So I'm going to do Control R 2 times there. And then I'm just going to rename this one to say ground tile map. And that's going to change all of the instances you can see throughout the script there for us. And if we save that, I believe we'll have to change this as well once it's done saving. So it deletes it here. So we just need to drag in our tile map, or you can click the little circle here and select it. So now that's still going to work. Nothing will actually change there. It's just going to be a little bit easier to read. And in a couple, maybe in some of the later videos here, we'll add more stuff to the world. But for now, we just wanted something basic so that we could understand the concept, and then we'll continue to build on this here in the future. And one other thing that I want to do with our ground tile map here before I forget is I want to change this layer. So I'm going to click add layer and I'm going to call this one ground. That way, in the future, when we're having our player, we can say like if they are on the ground layer, then they can jump or something along those lines. So that way they can't always jump. That'll be an easy way to sort that out here for us. And one quick way here, I'm just going to show you the tile map collider and how that works. So how it changes. And we're just going to do this real quick. You don't have to follow. You don't have to copy this or anything like that if you don't want to. I am going to delete this. So So just real quick, and we're going to create a new script. Just going to call it tile remover. And like I said, I am going to delete these once we're done and once we show how this works. So we're just going to go ahead and remove all of this stuff. We don't need any of it. We're going to get a serialized field, and this is going to be of our tile map, and we'll call it Tilemap. And all we're going to need to do here is we're going to do an update, and we're going to say if we have an input dot get mouse button down, and we're going to say mouse button 0, so that's the left mouse button. And we're going to say here we're going to do, this is going to be vector 3. We'll say mouse world POS, mouse world position, and that's going to equal our camera dot main dot screen world point, and we're going to say input dot mouse position. And then we're going to do another vector 3. This is going to be vector 3 int, and we'll call this one the cell position. And that's just going to equal our tile map, and then dot world to cell, and then we'll pass in our mouse world position. And then the last thing that we're going to want to do here is we'll just remove that. So tilemap dot set tile, and that's going to be our cell position, comma, and then null, because we're going to remove that specific tile. So that's all we need to do here. And all this is doing, we're just getting the mouse position here in world space, and then we're converting our world position to the tile map cell position. So now if we go back in here and we just add that script to our tile remover, the last thing that we have to do here is we have to add in our tile map. So that's going to be our ground tile map. And so now if we go ahead and click on play, and if we just kind of zoom out here, I'm going to grab the main camera and just maybe move it up here someplace so it'll be a little bit easier to go over. And then now if we select our tile map, for example, and if we click here, you can see the border here for the collider. You can see as we remove the blocks, the collider adjusts automatically for us. So if we make it so that our player can, mine out blocks, for example, then he's going to be able to mine these, and you'll see that the collider continues to adjust as expected. So that way he won't be able to just go down as far as possible or anything like that. So that's just a quick way that we can confirm that that is working as expected here. And then, like I said, I'm just going to remove these as we don't actually want those right now, but that is kind of how we're going to remove tiles in the future. So the next thing that we're going to want to do is we're going to want to start getting our player created. So here in our editor, we're just going to go ahead and create an empty game object, and I'm going to call this one player. And one thing I'm going to do is with the player selected, I'm going to right click and reset the transform so it puts it all back to 0. And there are several ways that we can do this. I'm going to go ahead and just go into our asset pack here and go to the male player, as these are the ones that I'm going to be using. And then I'm just going to take the arms. I'm going to grab 2 arms, a body, a head, and 2 legs. And I'm just going to put them all here, and you'll see that they're all into one big giant square for now. That's all right. And so I'm going to go ahead and actually just rename all of these. So, left arm, right arm, etc. And now that we have all of these renamed, I'm going to go ahead and make it so you can actually see the player. So first thing that you can do is we do have these gizmos. You just click this and you can turn them off. You can also go through here and select specific ones you want on, but I'm just going to turn them off for now, and I'll turn them back on if needed later. For my own organizational stuff here, I'm going to move the head up there, and then the body, then the arms and the legs, just so it makes more sense to myself. And then I'm just going to kind of move these down here for now to make everything kind of look a little bit nicer. And for the arms, I'm actually going to select both of the arms and move them down so they're at the exact same spot. And the same thing with the legs. And as we make this a little bit better, we'll change the order of all of these and stuff like that to make them look a little bit nicer when we're getting into the animations. But for now, we just wanted to have a little player here that we can see with our game. And we're going to want to add a couple of components here to our player as well. First one is we're going to want to add in a box collider 2D. And we can just click the little edit collider here so we can adjust the collider to match our character a little bit better. And then we're also going to want to add in a rigid body here, a rigid body 2D. And one thing that I know I'm going to want to do here is on the constraints, I'm going to want to freeze our rotation on the Z-axis so we're not tipping over. Next, we're going to want to add a couple of scripts here. So the first one is going to be for our input. So for now, I'm just going to call this one our input manager. And we're also going to want to add one for our player movement. So that's going to be called player movement. And so we'll go ahead and we'll open up the input manager first. And we're going to keep this script very, very simple for now. We're going to we will change this here in a little bit, but for now, we're just going to get everything kind of working, and then we'll go through and we'll make changes as needed. So the first thing, we're not going to need the start, and get rid of this comment here. So we'll just need a couple of different things, and I'm going to make these serialized fields. The first one is going to be a float, and I'm going to call it the horizontal input. The second one, I'm going to do a serialized field here as well. This is going to be a bool, and it's going to be our jump input. So that's pretty much all we're going to be doing for now, moving left and right and jumping. And so here in update, all we have to do is just say horizontal input, and that's going to equal it's going to equal input. Input dot get access raw. And in here, we're just going to pass in horizontal. And we're going to do the same thing for our jump input, except for that's going to equal our input dot get button down. And that's going to be our jump button. And this is enough to get our input for player movement. And real quick, I guess, actually these, instead of making these serialized fields, I'm going to make these public, as we're going to need to reference them from our player movement script. So we're just going to make those public. And here in a later video, like I said, we'll go through and we'll refactor this code and make this use the new input system or the newer input system and those kind of things as well. But for now, we just want to be able to move around and jump. And so let's jump back in here and we'll add this to our player. And if you're curious for these horizontal and jumps, the reason we put these in here, if you go into edit and project settings and you come into the input manager down here, you have a bunch of these that are already set up by default from Unity. So, you know, we have horizontal here. This is the name horizontal. We could type something else in here if we wanted to, but this is already set up for us. So it's going to work for left, right arrows, the A and D keys, for example. And then we also have our jump that is set up as well down here. And this is going to be set up for space by default. So when we press space, it's going to jump, and it already has some settings here. So it's just real quick and easy to use. So that's going to be everything for this video. In the next video, we'll finish off the player movement script here to get our player actually moving. And we'll go over that in more details and get that set up. Thank you for watching. We'll see you next time.